well, each state. And I think we're gonna add another category. And green will be uncertain. Then, yeah, uncertain. We will not know. The future of this state is uncertain. Or we're gonna add another one. The future of this one will be a swing state. Okay, so these are gonna be states that are gonna be continuing to stay in the middle. Green is uncertain because we really can't predict the future of that state. So we'll be going from order. Okay, Alabama. I don't see anything changing of Alabama. I made a whole 3 or 4 minute video explaining stuff about Alabama. But I'm going to make a video just explaining each state in its entirety. Which way it's trending, which way it is going. Alabama is a sour. Unless there's a party switch in the future, Alabama is staying a Republican state. Okay, Alabama is too conservative for Democrats to flip. The only way they can really flip Alabama is if they have record turnout with black voters, and the white vote is down. That's how it is in Alabama. So, yep, we're going by order. Alaska. This state's becoming a swing state in the future. Okay, Alaska, it got really close. But I think of these new voter laws, yeah. Presidential, I'm going to put it as uncertain because of its voter laws, okay? Alaska is just... unless they repeal these voter laws, then it's going back to Republican. But Alaska, why did they pass these dumb voter laws? They, make no sense. It would make sense. It actually doesn't make sense whatsoever. It would make sense if they had a runoff system, like they do in the South for the primaries, so we can get out all the other guys out of the election. But nope. Nope, we have to have it, this strange way, this strange system. Okay, and I don't know, again, presidential elections, I don't think it's going to change for Alaska at all. But Alaska, this is a big L. That election system. Arkansas just continues training Republican. I think they'll definitely hit a ceiling in Arkansas eventually, but it's not going to become a blue state anytime soon. So yeah, now is Arizona. Okay, Arizona is a strange state, okay? It is a strange state in terms of... Not as strange as Minnesota, but it's a strange state. Arizona is just a desert, and, so many people live in there. Yeah, it's strange. There's so many people live in a state that's a giant desert. Considering that New Mexico is basically the same climate, but Alaska has way more people, it really just doesn't make any sense. But again, this is modern world. The modern world, of course. Most of the people live in, one city in Arizona, and that's Phoenix. I think it's going to become a swing state because Phoenix is such a basically controls and dictates the elections in Arizona. And Phoenix and Maricopa County is kind of like a swing district, which means if Republicans lose Maricopa County, they'll probably lose the state. They can possibly win the state without Maricopa, but it's going to be very hard for them not to, basically. And I think that... Arizona has not really been a safe Republican state since 2008. It has been a likely Republican state, then became a lean Republican state, and then Biden flipped it. But there's a chance that it might still become a state Republican. Next is California. We don't have to say anything about California. California, we don't have to say anything about California. Okay, there's nothing to be said about California. Colorado, the state is becoming a Democrat state. It used to be a Republican state back in the 80s and 90s, but a lot of liberals have moved to Colorado, and it is one of those states that have became a Democrat state. Next is Connecticut. So the New England area has taken a turn to the right. I think in the future it might become a swing state. I think Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Jersey have huge potential to become a swing state where they don't really know, because Connecticut is, really just, the state that's by New York, Massachusetts, the biggest states. It's not really, people don't really consider Connecticut that important to the state. It is weird that a state like Connecticut, which is mostly demographically favorable towards Democrats, towards Republicans, well, they are voting Democrat, but I think in the future, there's going to be a trend towards the Republicans in New England. You've seen, seats are flipping and traditionally blue districts in Connecticut. I think New England's going to be the next area to really break. I think the New England curse will probably end pretty soon, probably within the next couple of decades, for, of course, Republicans. And they're going to start winning in New England again. Next is Delaware. I think Delaware, again, it's a state that people often forget exists. But yeah, I think Delaware, would Democrats continue? Delaware is just a strange state. But it's mostly urban, which again is not favorable towards Republicans. But unless the president is from Delaware, I think it's going to become a swing state in the future. Because in 2016, it took a really hard turn to the right. It went from, it almost became within 10. Which is, yeah, it's going to probably, I think by the end of this decade, it could become a swing. It could be in the 2040s by a swing state by the end of the decade. Next is Florida. It's becoming a Republican state, of course. It's gonna become a Republican state. Again, Alabama, I don't think it's gonna become competitive. Same thing with Arkansas. But Florida, I think it's gonna probably start voting safe for Democrat. Republican by 2030s. Which, again, is going to be pretty bad. But unlike Georgia is going the other way, of course, obviously. Georgia is uncertain because it could become a swing state. I'm going to put Georgia as uncertain, really. Because Georgia could really become a swing state, but I think it's going to become a Democrat state because Atlanta is growing. Atlanta is, mostly, plurality white and black. So, it is a state. You might gain with the Hispanics, of course, but it's a state that's becoming demographically unfavorable because the population centers, are unfavorable, demographically unfavorable. I think it'll be a state that will become Democrat in the future. Next is Hawaii. Hawaii is not changing. Hawaii is never gonna vote Republican unless someone comes along and wrecks. But yeah, Hawaii is one of the only few states that never have disapproved of Joe Biden, which is pretty hilarious according to civics. But yeah, Idaho, well, the Mormon population, Mormons vote Republican. And yeah, I think I could put, that's swing state. But yeah, Idaho is going to stay Republican. Mormons are the fastest growing group there. And I think that, they vote heavily Republican. I think that you saw a huge massive trend back towards Republicans in Utah among Mormons who didn't want to vote for Trump and they voted for even McMullen. And I think that it's gonna be one of those states. Next is Illinois. So Illinois is right now Illinois is a blue state, but Illinois, if it continues losing people and the crime continues to get out of control, it could become a state that's competitive because because no matter how blue a state is, people don't like crime. And no one wants to live in Chicago because no one wants to deal with all the crime. And it might become a swing state, but I don't think it will. It's going to be a Democrat state. Next is Indiana. Oh, I have to fill out the map again. Okay, okay, we're back. I don't know why. Oh, yeah, I forgot to put Alaska as uncertain. And I think Georgia. I'm going to put Georgia back to uncertain because you really don't. I'm going to put it back to competitive. It's not going to be Democrat. It's going to be competitive. It really depends on the turnout of that state. I think. Okay, Georgia, I'm done. We're done with Georgia. I'm going to go back to Georgia later, but yeah. Indiana is a red state. I don't think it's going back. The trends in the Midwest, I think, are here to stay. And Indiana, I think, is going to become unless there's some mass movement of Democrats from Illinois to Indiana or from other Democrat states, I don't think it's stretching. Iowa, it's going to become the Dakotas, Montana, Wyoming. It's going to become those states. Kansas. Okay, Kansas is just the strangest effing state in the world, okay? Kansas is trending blue, okay? I think it's going to become competitive. It's trending blue, okay? The major population centers, well, most people in Kansas live as trending blue. And it's going to be one of those states that, doesn't, make any sense whatsoever. Kansas. Next is Kentucky. Don't really need to say much about Kentucky. Kentucky's staying Republican. Same thing with Louisiana. I don't see a massive shift in Louisiana coming anytime soon. Maine, oh yes. Maine's second district is Republican. I don't think it's gonna change. That's gonna change. But Maine's first. I think that's gonna stay Republican, but Maine at large is gonna become competitive. Maine at large, I think it's become a competitive state. It might even become a Republican state if they continue doing well in the Northeast. Maryland, to the lesser extent DC, as gonna stay blue. Okay. And I don't see Maryland. Maryland is demographically unfavorable to Republicans at this current moment. And also, it is a state that, is very... Unless it has always been a very dangerous state, especially in Baltimore, but it hasn't really changed the states politically. Massachusetts, it's not switching, to Republican ever. It's a state where, like California, it's where all the elitists live, all the elitists, all the, yeah, that's purple. Yeah, it's where all the elitists live, all the elites, it's where all the liberal elites live. It's not going to change. Michigan it's going to become a competitive state. Maybe a president could break but yeah, the GOP is absolutely incompetent in Michigan. So yeah, it's going to stay a competitive state. Minnesota, Minnesota... Can Republican? Well, yeah, it really depends on the weed parties in Minnesota. But again, I think one day weed will be legalized in America. Minnesota, they had all these riots in Minnesota and it still trended left. So let's get put in Democrat. Anyways, next is Mississippi. That doesn't really need much explaining. People are saying that, Mississippi is gonna be it's not gonna be competitive. Mississippi is never gonna become competitive unless you have a Democrat that's able to appeal towards the working class in these states, where it's if the Democrats continue acting the way they do, no, they're not gonna ever win Mississippi again. Same thing with Missouri. It is a state that used to be a Democrat or swing state, but it became a Republican state. It used to be a swing state, now it's a Republican state, and I don't think it's gonna trend back anytime soon. It's very similar to Indiana, Kentucky, Iowa, as well. Montana's gonna probably become a competitive state. Or, I think it's going to be uncertain, because it doesn't really matter. It's just, like Alaska, it's a very uncertain state, because, yes, the population is growing, but it still voted for Trump by 15, but then they elect a Democrat to Senate, but then they will trend right. I think that it's Montana, we don't want to get to Montana. Nebraska second, I think it's going to become a Democrat area. No, it's still gonna be a competitive area because it really depends on the redistricting of the state. But Nevada is next. Nebraska is one of those states. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna flip. It's not Kansas. Well, Kansas is just cursed. Kansas is strange. Kansas is just why does Kansas exist? But yeah, next is Nevada, Republican. The Democrats, they screwed themselves in Nevada. They support Democrat. Not that. They became basically like AOC and Bernie, and it's just not a good fit for any state that is in the middle. And it will probably work for California or Massachusetts, but not Nevada. Not Nevada. It's not going to work for Nevada. And if you look at the voter registration, Nevada is not favorable for Democrats in the future, despite the demography of the state. Whereas the Hispanic vote is going to probably continue to trend towards the Republican, considering the fact that a lot of Hispanics are Christians, and of course, as the Democrats continue to demonize Christianity, the more they're going to alienate Hispanics in the country. Next is New Hampshire. It's still going to be competitive. New Hampshire is going to become a swing state. I don't think it's going to become a Democrat or Republican state. And until there's some political shift that breaks I'm talking about the future. I'm talking about the next 20 years. I'm not talking about 2090, 2080, 2030, 2060, 2050. Okay, I'm talking about now till 2040. Okay, maybe 2045. Okay, this is gonna be your typical map. Okay, New Hampshire, New Jersey. I think it's gonna be competitive. You saw what happened to the governorship. Okay. These New England, these North, this, the Northeast, it was this place that Republicans struggled. They struggled in this area. But now you had Jack nearly winning, and in Connecticut you had Republicans winning a lot of special elections as well. Okay, it's gonna become. I think. This entire area, I think it's gonna become the new battleground of the. It's gonna be like the new Midwest, the new battleground as the Midwest becomes Republican, except for Illinois and Minnesota and Michigan. I think Minnesota will become competitive, like Michigan, because Michigan is just refusing to listen to anyone but itself. But next state, New Mexico. Given the trends of Hispanics, I can see New Mexico becoming a competitive state. It's also a very oil-heavy state. I get oil might run out in like 30 years, but it's a very oil-heavy state. Oh yeah, I forgot to fill in Hawaii. It's a very oil-heavy state. I think it's good. I think because the Democrats hate attack on energy, the war on energy might actually turn the state Republican, which will be pretty hilarious to see. Because the Democrats' war on energy, the Democrats' war on oil, the Democrats' war on American energy. That might actually tip the state to a Republican state. It'll get to like the lean Democrat to tilt Democrat in 2024, and then 2028 onward, because the Democrats' continued war on energy and American energy and American same thing. It's just they're gonna lose New Mexico because of the war on American energy. New York, that's not changing. I don't think Democrats have to lose sleep over losing New York at night. They don't have to lose sleep over losing New York. Same thing in North Carolina. It's because it's the Biden couldn't win North Carolina. Obama was the last Democrat to win North Carolina, and it was so extremely close. It was kind of like Indiana. Okay, Obama won Indiana. Indiana's still a Republican state. Okay, North Carolina's gonna stay a Republican state. Okay, it has become the Dakotas. The Dakotas. Yeah, we're gonna put both of them in one. Okay, they're basically extremely low. Nobody lives there. Typical Republican states. But we'll talk about North Dakota, so we'll not talk about South Dakota. Ohio, another state. Ohio is not gonna be the bellwether of the country anymore. I think it's gonna be like a state like Michigan, New Jersey, later on, New Hampshire, Delaware, New Mexico, Arizona. I think Arizona is going to become like Ohio, because Arizona is very urban. Ohio is a lot of working class people living in Ohio. Oklahoma, I don't see Oklahoma changing at all. Oklahoma is not changing. Same thing with Oregon, a lot of elitist-driven Oregon. I don't think Oregon's going to be like Minnesota. It's not going to change, okay? People in Oregon, and until Oregon's not going to change for the next 20 years, okay? Oregon's not going to change for the next 22. Pennsylvania, I actually think that Pennsylvania has become a red state. The war on American energy, you're going to probably see, Mastriano going to probably win, which he is closing in the polls, so it's again, as well. And also, I think the state is going to become a Republican state in the future, because now it is Nevada and Florida. I think after that it's going to be Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is going to be the next state to be gone for the Democrats. I think it's going to be the next state that is going to leave the Democrats. Not Michigan, because Michigan is just Michigan. Michigan is just a strange state. Rhode Island, that's going to become competitive as well. The New England area, there's just the curse of New England is going to probably end. Okay, we're back. I don't know why, but, the internet froze twice. Or Yatman's froze twice, okay? The last thing we did, the Northeast as a whole, okay, it's gonna be the next, Midwest. It's gonna become extremely competitive. The 2030s especially, The Midwest was much closer, which is the reason why the Midwest became competitive. And I think the Midwest is going to become a solidified Republican area. Meanwhile, certain parts of the country trend, of course, Democrats, but the Northeast is going to become the new swing area. Of course, New York and Massachusetts and Maryland are not going to change. They're not. Okay. Next is the state of South Carolina. Okay. This state is another uncertain state because people are saying it's going to become a swing state. Some people are saying it's going to stay Republican. Some people are saying it's going to become Democrat. You know, you have this one guy saying, "Oh, 2028." No, the South Carolina may not be a Democrat state, but I think it's gonna be one of those uncertain states. You don't know where it's gonna trend in the future. And yeah, it's gonna be one of those states. South Dakota, we can finally talk about your Republican state still. Yep. Next is Tennessee. Oh yeah, I think we actually finished Tennessee. I forgot we didn't cover Tennessee yet. Tennessee is a state. I think it's gonna stay Republican. Okay. Most of the state is rural. Most of the state is suburban. And yeah, a lot of those voters vote Republican typically. Okay. Texas. I made a whole video about Texas. Texas is I think Texas is in the swing state category because you have two areas that are trending in opposite directions. You have the Rio Grande Valley, okay, which is around 4 million people. Okay, and of course, at the interior rural areas, which are trending Republican. But of course, you have the cities. The cities, and much less to the extent the suburbs. So, yeah, it's going to be one of those areas. Well, I think it may stay Republican, but it really depends on the trend of the cities. Okay, it's not because, and the cities continue trending blue, but the Rio Grande Valley continues trending red because of the border. Okay, because they're sick of it. They're sick of all these people coming in through the border. And, because they're the ones who have to deal with the stuff on the border. Okay, the people down in the Rio Grande, they have to deal with the stuff on the border. But, yeah. Next is Utah. That's going to become a Republican state. Republican state. I know. Oh, even McMahon is... No, he's not going to win. Okay, he's literally changed from an independent to a Democrat. Okay, he's a Democrat. He's not going to win, okay? And Mormons are the fastest growing religious group in the country, and Mormons vote Republican vastly, so yeah. Same thing of Pennsylvania, we forgot to mention the Amish as well, which is also a vastly growing Republican area as well. So yeah, next is Vermont. Vermont is just Vermont, okay? We actually don't really, Vermont has become a deep blue state now. And it's funny, it's an extremely rural and white state, but it votes basically like the Democrat Wyoming. Okay, the Democrat Wyoming. Next is Virginia. Okay, I think Virginia might actually stay a Democrat state. Even though Youngkin won Virginia, Virginia is still not the same state. The D.C. suburbs do not like Republicans, and those are the states that, the areas that, dictate the state. The state might become a swing state, but it probably will not. Next is Washington. Again, Seattle is a very big city. I don't think it's gonna change that much for the Democrats for Washington. A lot of liberals moved to Washington as well. A lot of people who don't want to live in California, they're going to these two states or Colorado. Because those states at least ran better than California. Okay. Next is West Virginia. Again, a major, does stay Republican. It's a working class state. And I believe that this state has potential to become a good state, but it's just geography really screwed it over. Next is Wisconsin, another state that I don't think Democrats are going to win. In the future, it's a very working class state, a very rural state, a very suburban state, where a lot of those areas are Republican areas. And yeah, you're going to see a redding of Wisconsin. Wyoming, there was nothing to be said about Wyoming that hasn't been said already. So that means you have 208 Republican votes, 202 Democrat votes in a normal year, 112 swing votes, and 16 uncertain votes. So, yeah. And even if Democrats win Texas, if the Republicans win all the other swing states, they would still win. And the two uncertain states, a couple of uncertain states are actually Republican states, so that we don't know the certain views of. I would just probably say South Carolina. South Carolina has stayed the same, like, within 10 to 15 points. Okay, you know, as well. Montana has basically stayed the same, unless, you know, Californians keep moving to Montana. But also, Mormons are also growing in number in Montana, too. Whereas we'll probably outnumber the amount of Democrats moving to Montana. And Alaska, the new voting system, so we're not going to change Alaska. So that is the final tally here. So there's 112 swing votes, 221 Republican votes, and 202 Democrat votes. As well, of course, this is based off current trends. Of course, there could be new trends in the 2030s or the late 2020s as well. So that's basically about this video. Goodbye.